They said she couldn't even afford a proper dress. They said the wedding she dreamed of was just a fantasy, a poor girl's illusion. Every word, every whisper behind her back, she remembered it all. They laughed while she worked in silence. They doubted her while she planned her revenge with a smile. Because sometimes, silence hides the loudest storms. And on the day they came to see her fail, she didn't just prove them wrong, she made them watch. But the way she did it, no one saw that coming. Because it wasn't about the money. It was about something far deeper. Something that would change everything they thought they knew about her. But before I continue, make sure you're subscribed to the Old Folks channel and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. We love to see how far our stories travel. The clinking of silverware echoed through the room, sharp and rhythmic, like a metronome marking each second of humiliation. Claire sat quietly at the far end of the long oak dining table, her smile faint but steady, even as her mother's laughter cut through the air. Her sister, Marissa, leaned closer to their cousin and whispered, not quietly enough, "I still can't believe she thinks she can afford a wedding like that." A wave of soft giggles followed, wrapping the room in a cruel kind of comfort. Claire's eyes lowered to her plate, her pulse steady but heavy. In that moment, she didn't defend herself. She just smiled, the kind of smile that hides fire beneath calm water. And in her mind, a quiet thought formed, "You'll see." The night after the laughter. That night, the echo of their laughter followed her home like ghosts she couldn't shake off. Rain tapped against the window as she sat on her bed, still dressed from dinner, her reflection staring back from the mirror. Her phone lit up with messages from Daniel, her fiancé, asking how the evening went. She stared at the screen for a long time before typing, "Fine. Just fine." But her trembling fingers betrayed her calm. The world outside seemed to hum with her anger, the thunder rumbling faintly like a warning. She whispered into the silence, "They think I can't. But I will." Her reflection smiled back, almost daring her to prove it. The silent promise. Days passed, but the sting lingered. Claire went about her work, tidy, polite, unshaken on the surface, but something inside her shifted. Every insult became fuel, every doubt a quiet spark. At night, she started writing lists in a notebook, budgets, venues, secret plans. The ticking clock on her desk seemed to grow louder with each passing hour. When Daniel asked what she was working on, she just said softly, "A dream." But it wasn't just a dream anymore, it was a promise. A promise that the next time they laughed, it would be out of shame. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, soft and golden, yet nothing about Claire felt bright. Her mind replayed her family's laughter, each word sharp as glass. She took a deep breath and opened her laptop, the blank screen glowing like a challenge. One by one, she began searching wedding venues, writing down names and prices, her eyes scanning for something extraordinary. Her fingers moved faster than her thoughts, driven by something deeper than pride. When she finally paused, her heart raced. She had found it, the Elmhurst estate. The same venue her sister had once said was for people with real money. Claire's lips curved into the faintest, most dangerous smile. Secrets in motion. Every day after work, she quietly built her plan, calls, meetings, savings, quiet sacrifices no one knew about. Daniel noticed her exhaustion, her distracted eyes, the way she avoided questions about the wedding. "Claire, are you sure you're okay?" he asked one evening, reaching for her hand. She squeezed his fingers softly and replied, "Just trust me." He didn't press. But behind her calm voice was a storm of determination. She was setting something in motion, something that would silence every voice that ever doubted her. The smile that hid fire. Weeks passed. Claire began visiting Elmhurst under the guise of research. The old stone walls and chandelier-lit halls seemed to welcome her like destiny itself. Each time she walked through, she imagined her family's shocked faces, the same mouths that once mocked her, now speechless. But as she stood beneath the grand staircase, the event manager asked gently, "Are you sure you can handle the full payment alone?" Claire's smile didn't falter. "I'm not just handling it," she said softly. "I'm owning it." And with that, her plan crossed the point of no return. Night after night, Claire stayed up managing bills, cutting corners, and counting every dollar. The glow of her laptop lit her tired face as she stared at numbers that didn't add up. Her fingers trembled, but she refused to stop. Each sacrifice became a step closer to victory. She sold old jewelry, skipped vacations, and quietly paid off the venue piece by piece. Her body grew weary, but her spirit burned brighter. And sometimes, when she stared into the mirror, she almost didn't recognize herself. The woman who once accepted humiliation was gone. Daniel's concern. Daniel watched her change, the sleepless nights, the hollow cheeks, the determined silence. "Claire, what are you hiding from me?" he asked one evening, his tone soft but pained. She looked at him with tired eyes. "I'm not hiding, Daniel. I'm proving something." He frowned. "To who?" She didn't answer. Because the truth was, she didn't even know anymore. Was she proving it to her family, or to herself? The breaking point. One night, after paying the final installment, Claire broke down. The house was silent, except for her quiet sobs. She held the confirmation letter in her hands, fully paid. Her vision blurred with tears as a strange mix of triumph and emptiness filled her chest. The victory she'd dreamt of felt suddenly hollow. Still, she whispered through her tears, "They'll know. They'll finally know." Claire designed the invitations herself, elegant ivory cards with golden letters. Each one shimmered faintly in the light. She hand-delivered them to her family, one by one, with a calm smile. Her mother glanced at the envelope, eyebrows raised. "Elmhurst Estate?" "Claire, that's—" "I know," Claire interrupted gently, "the best in town." Her voice was firm, leaving no room for disbelief. The silence that followed was sweeter than music. The doubt returns. But doubt lingers in small ways. Later that evening, she overheard her aunt whisper to another relative, "Maybe Daniel's parents paid for it." She couldn't have. Claire stood in the hallway, invisible, listening to the gossip like cold rain dripping down her back. Her jaw tightened. It was never enough, was it? No matter what she did, they would always find a way to take credit away. She turned and walked away, her heels echoing like a countdown. A quiet resolve. That night, Claire called Elmhurst and confirmed the final arrangements herself. "Yes, I want the staff to announce me as the venue sponsor before the ceremony," she said softly. The event manager hesitated. "Of course, ma'am, though that's not common." Claire smiled faintly. "Neither is what they did to me." And with that, the trap was set. The morning light fell across Elmhurst like liquid gold. The grand hall glowed under chandeliers, flowers draped over the staircase, music echoing softly through the air. Claire stood before the mirror, dressed in her elegant gown, the reflection of power and grace. Her mother entered the room, her tone sugar-sweet. "You've done well, dear. I suppose Daniel's family spared no expense." Claire turned slowly, her smile unreadable. "I suppose not." Her mother left, unaware that the floor beneath her arrogance was about to collapse. The guests' murmurs. As guests arrived, whispers floated through the air. "Can you believe she got Elmhurst? She must have had help. Or maybe she begged for a discount." Each word stung, but Claire didn't flinch. She stood at the balcony above, looking down at them all, her heartbeat steady, her lips whispering, "Wait for it." Because soon, they would. The moment arrives. The ceremony began, the vows spoken, tears shed, and applause ringing through the room. Then, as the music faded, the manager stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "before we begin the reception, we'd like to thank the person who made this evening possible, the venue's full sponsor." A hush fell. He smiled and gestured toward her. "Mrs. Claire Whitmore." The room erupted in shock. And for the first time, she saw silence heavier than sound. Every face turned toward her, wide eyes, parted lips, disbelief written across them like a confession. Her mother's hand trembled on her glass, Marissa's smile froze mid-laugh. Claire stood tall, the chandelier light catching the faint shimmer in her eyes. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Her mother whispered, almost to herself, You paid for this? Yes, Claire replied calmly, every inch. The shift in power. The whispers turned into stunned murmurs, then into reluctant applause. People who had once mocked her now nodded in awe. Claire smiled, not out of pride, but peace. She didn't need their approval anymore. Marissa approached her slowly, her voice unsteady. Claire, I didn't mean. But Claire gently interrupted, I know. You never did. And with that, she walked past her sister, leaving her words hanging like ghosts in the air. The smile of freedom. Later that night, as the music played and laughter filled the hall, Claire stood by the window, watching the soft rain fall outside. Her reflection looked back at her, older, wiser, free. She finally exhaled, the years of humiliation dissolving in a single breath. And when Daniel came up behind her, wrapping an arm around her waist, she whispered, They said I couldn't afford the wedding. He smiled. And now? She looked out at the glittering hall. I own the memory. The morning air was heavy with fog, curling around the gates of the grand venue she had secretly chosen months ago. Guests arrived slowly, stepping out of cars with confused expressions, whispering as they looked up at the towering chandeliers through the windows. This can't be right, one woman murmured, her voice trembling with disbelief. Every inch of the place glimmered with luxury, soft violins played, candles flickered along the marble hall, and waiters in crisp white suits carried silver trays. When the bride stepped out of her car, all eyes froze. Her once cheap dress had been replaced with a custom gown, hand-stitched and shimmering like mist under sunlight. The crowd fell silent, admiration mixed with envy. But behind her calm smile, she was waiting for the right moment to reveal the truth. Whispers and watchful eyes. As the guests mingled, pretending to belong, their curiosity grew sharper. Old gossip resurfaced like ghosts. Didn't they say she was broke? Who could have paid for all this? The woman walked through the crowd with poise, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor, echoing like a metronome of suspense. She greeted everyone kindly, her eyes calm but unreadable. Near the champagne table, her fiancé's family whispered nervously, exchanging uneasy glances. The mother's hand trembled as she adjusted her pearls. The bride approached them, offering a sweet smile that hid years of hurt. Is everything all right? She asked gently. Her voice was warm, but her tone carried an edge of power they had never heard before. The toast. The lights dimmed as she stepped onto the stage, glass in hand. Her fiancé looked at her with a smile that was more forced than proud. She began slowly, thanking the guests, her family, the venue. Her voice was steady, calm, controlled. But then, her words turned sharp. Some people once said I couldn't afford this wedding, she said softly, her eyes scanning the crowd. The guests shifted uncomfortably. They said I wasn't good enough for this family. A hush fell. Even the music seemed to stop breathing. She raised her glass. To those who doubted me. I hope the view from your seats is clear. A tense silence followed, then polite applause. But behind every clap was a mix of guilt and awe. Only she knew this was just the beginning. As the night deepened, the woman slipped away from the dance floor and entered the candlelit hall, where her fiancé's father stood alone, checking his phone. He didn't notice her at first, until she spoke. You know, she began, her tone low, I used to think you were right. That I couldn't afford a life like this. He looked up, startled. What are you talking about? She smiled faintly. I'm talking about the investment deal your company made, the one that fell apart 3 years ago. The one that someone had to quietly save. His face drained of color. How do you? She stepped closer, her voice like a whisper through smoke. Because the nobody you looked down on was the one who saved your empire. He said nothing. Only the faint ticking of a nearby clock filled the silence. The fiancé's truth. Back in the ballroom, her fiancé found her near the balcony, her face lit by moonlight. He tried to smile, but guilt flickered in his eyes. You planned all this, didn't you? He said quietly. She turned, her gaze steady. You helped them laugh at me, she replied. You stood by while they humiliated me. I didn't mean to, he started, but she cut him off. You meant to fit in, she said. And now you see what fitting in costs. Thunder rumbled outside, shaking the glass. He looked down, unable to meet her eyes. For a moment, her expression softened. I loved you, she whispered. But love doesn't survive in silence. He reached out for her hand, but she stepped away. The truth unveiled. The music stopped abruptly. All eyes turned as a giant screen flickered to life behind the stage. Photos appeared, old ledgers, hidden donations, her name quietly written as the investor who saved her fiancé's family business years ago. Gasps filled the hall. Murmurs rose like a storm. The bride stood still, her face calm but her eyes glistening with emotion. I didn't buy this venue to prove wealth, she said slowly. I bought it to remind everyone that kindness isn't weakness. A long silence followed, and then, a few guests began to clap. The applause grew, loud and thunderous, until even her fiancé's mother lowered her head in shame. But inside the bride's heart, it wasn't victory she felt. It was release. The night had ended. Candles burned low, wax dripping down like tears. The music was gone, and only the faint echo of laughter lingered in the air. She stood alone in the center of the hall, her reflection trembling in the polished floor. Her heels clicked once more, slower now, softer. The grandeur around her felt hollow, yet peaceful. She touched the edge of a table, still set with untouched desserts. A sigh escaped her lips. The fight was over. The noise, the judgment, the pretending, all of it had finally faded. But as she looked out the tall glass windows at the rain falling outside, she wondered quietly, had she won, or simply let go? The farewell. The next morning, she walked through the silent venue, sunlight breaking gently through the mist. Workers were cleaning up, picking up petals, folding chairs. She stopped near the stage where she had given her toast. For a moment, she replayed the night in her mind, the faces, the shock, the truth unveiled. Then she smiled faintly. Maybe they'll remember, she whispered to herself. Her car arrived outside, sleek, black, quiet. As she stepped in, she took one last look at the building. The same place where she was once told she'd never belong, now stood as her silent witness. But deep inside, she didn't crave revenge anymore. She only wanted peace. The reflection, epilogue lead in. As the car rolled away, the city lights blurred behind her, gold, red, and rain-soaked. The night's drama had ended, but the story would live in whispers and regrets. She leaned her head against the window, her eyes calm but distant. They said I couldn't afford the wedding, she murmured softly. They never realized. I was never trying to buy their approval. The chauffeur glanced in the mirror, unsure if she was speaking to him or herself. Outside, thunder rolled one last time, low, fading, final. And with that sound, she closed her eyes. The woman who had been mocked, doubted, and dismissed, had written her own ending. Not out of revenge, but out of strength. They said she couldn't even afford a proper dress. They said the wedding she dreamed of was just a fantasy, a poor girl's illusion. Every word, every whisper behind her back, she remembered it all. They laughed while she worked in silence. They doubted her while she planned her revenge with a smile. Because sometimes, silence hides the loudest storms. And on the day they came to see her fail, she didn't just prove them wrong, she made them watch. But the way she did it, no one saw that coming. Because it wasn't about the money. It was about something far deeper. Something that would change everything they thought they knew about her. But before I continue, make sure you're subscribed to the Old Folks channel and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. We love to see how far our stories travel.